Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Prep Report. We're just straight along with Randy Rosenblum, Bob Gibson with you, and we're here on Tavern on the Green, also in Brea, also known as the Yard House. Studio will be up and running in about, 3-4 weeks, Bob?
Yeah, something like that.
It's been 3-4 weeks every 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, right? I know, we keep saying 3 or 4 weeks, but it's going to be a quick tip for you. When you come to the Yard House, order the fish. Order the fish. I'm telling you, that's your tip for the day.
I love the fish.
Oh,
I think the good news about the studio not being ready, we get to come to the Yard House.
That's why I'm saying. I got fish waiting for me. I got the dish coming out as soon as we're done. Let's go.
Fish.
Let's
He ain't lying. He ain't lying.
Love fish.
All right, so now we're in April now, fellas?
Yeah.
Easter break coming up, so everybody's got their baseball classics going, including the Boras, the El Dorado. La Mirada had a tournament. The All-American tournament. Randy, you're doing one right now.
The NHSI is coming up back east.
Yeah,
so lots of baseball.
You know, basketball's going on in terms of the All-Star games and the national games, and talk about Big Brawler Brands game in a little bit. But right now, let's just hop into it. Let's just check out some baseball stuff. Of course, Bob, you'll update us on Boras, what just ended.
Yeah.
Randy, update us on the All-American, and I'll get you everywhere in between. Right now, let's take a look at top 10 in the southern section, and we see CIFLACS, who this week in the Boras Classic, guys, they beat Huntington Beach and Mater Dei. Huntington Beach, of course, ranked in the top 10 constantly. Good showing by CIFLACS, man. Only 2 losses on the season.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people beaten Mater Dei, but to get by Huntington Beach, that's a quality victory, and that's why you've moved them up to number 1.
Somebody asked me out there, why is Cypress so good, right? It's a public high school. You might not think so.
Right.
Cypress is kind of in its own little area out there, right? Name me the closest high school to Cypress. There really isn't one. Cypress kind of has that area all to themselves.
They do.
Get all the talent
Yeah, they do,
out there in that part of the neck of the woods.
Sure.
All right, so Orange Lutheran in the second spot this week. They're 12-3 on the season. They beat Maranatha and Great Oak in the Boras Classic, fellas. Bob, what's up with that?
Well, Orange Lutheran 6-0 to start Trinity League play. Look at this.
Right
Coming up. 6-0 to start Trinity League play. Orange Lutheran, they are the team to beat right now, but as we're going to talk about Jay Sarah in just a second, having won the Boras Classic in the southern region of it, it's going to be a dogfight to the end. But right now, clearly all the great pitching resides with Orange Lutheran. As we know, pitching rules baseball for the most part.
That's what we want to see. Randy, get some updates, man?
Yes, Eric Schottheimer calling, believe it or not. I probably should pick that up.
Yeah,
Eric
that would be
Schottheimer
nice.
from the LA Times.
Never heard of him.
You want to take that? Good for you. Okay, let's go on. Huntington Beach is now 13-4 in the season. They are also in the Boras Classic. They lost to Cypress and defeated Etowanda, so they're going to kind of stay there in that 4th position. You can't win every week, and everybody in the Boras Classic is pretty good.
Yeah, and again, it's funny, the hardest thing, and I make up the city ratings, and we'll get to those rankings a little bit later. The toughest thing is to rank Southern Section and LA City schools at this stage.
Yeah, it is.
They're getting ready for their leagues. They'll go into league, then they'll come out and they'll play these spring tournaments, spring break tournaments, and they're throwing their best pitchers, but they're also, scrambling a little bit with their rosters, trying to figure out who they are, and to figure out who the rankings are at this point. Certainly those are quality teams, but it's very difficult to figure out who really the best are right now.
The one thing we know about baseball is we don't know.
That's true.
That's really what it is.
He got to the point quicker than I did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
In the 5th position this week is Ayala. Of course, they defeated Rancho Bernardo and Miracosta again in the Boras Classic, fellas.
Yeah.
They're holding tight. Notre Dame in the 6th position. Now, Notre Dame they were in the national rankings. They were pumping it up. They were rising up the charts. And this week they lost to Jay Sarah and Yucaipa.
Yeah, everybody lost to Jay Sarah this weekend. Yucaipa, Tyson Eaton, of course.
We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Just let it ride, Bob. We all know about what happened, but you're going to do it all now. We won't have any show here. What's the matter with you?
All right, Yucaipa is definitely a team on the rise. And we know Jay Sarah won the whole thing down in the South region of the Boras Classic. 2nd year in a row. That was the 2nd year in a row, too, of that.
Bob, those dudes came out of nowhere. I keep telling you, man.
Jay Sarah La Mirada matchup
Start
there.
the season 0-9, now you're cruising to the Boras, you even beat the Dodgers in their pre-league game and preseason game and all that, so.
Look, timely hitting will go a long way. Blake Clausen is just a class of the hitters right now in Southern California, so, I mean, that's the kind of talent Jay Sarah has right now, and they're kind of riding the hot bats right now, Jay Sarah. Servite,
for some reason, is not in the Boras Classic, but they are in the El Dorado tournament, and let's see what they did this week. Of course, they defeated Dana Hills and Elisa Nagel, and there's just only so much room, guys, during the during the Easter break.
It's a nice win. Alicia Nagale's a good program, so that's a nice win over the good Alicia Nagale Wolverine squad.
I say so. And Arcadia finally lost. You see them down here in the 8th position. They're now 15-1. They lost a mere 5-4. But like I said, fellas, you can't win every week. You're not going to win. If you're going to play a 3-game set, you probably won't win all 3, but you come close.
You know, there's Redondo Union, who's not really ranked in the list, and I'm going to see them in the National Classic. And Redondo Union's got a great team. They got 2 Division I players who pitch. They got 6 or 7 D1 guys on the diamond. So again, that speaks to how great the quality of Southern California baseball is. But it is good to get that experience in the Boras Classic, even though I think Notre Dame has a really good team in Sherman Oaks. They lose a couple games, but that'll serve them well when they go back into the Valley and try to win the Mission League.
Look, how good is Southern California baseball? The National High School Invitational, which is starting this week back in North Carolina, has been won by a Southern California team every year but one.
Right.
So that just tells you right there.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, and number 9th position, and we talked earlier, J. Sarah has caught fire. Don't know how, but they've caught fire. They're 13-9. They get the 9th position. This week, they beat Notre Dame and Sherman Oaks, and they beat Bob's world champion favorite, La Mirada. Beat him in the same week, Bob, in the Boras Classic. Jay Sarah now going to climb up the charts. You will never again see a 9-loss team in the top 10 this early in the season after 22 games.
And how about a freshman pitcher with the last name of McGuire? That sound familiar? Down at Jay Sarah, who got a couple of innings of work, and that's a kid we'll be keeping an eye on in the next 4 years over there at Jay Sarah. If that name rings
Dan
a bell
McGuire
at all,
or Mark McGuire?
Well, no,
Is it his nephew or is it his
Mark
kid?
McGuire's youngest.
All right. Well, he wasn't a pitcher. He's the first baseman, Bob.
True, but I would imagine his kid knows how to hit too. I would venture a guess.
South Hills, 11-4. They have made an entry into the top 10 this week. They split with league rivals West Covina this week. Bob?
No, I like that. I like the top 10. I like to move it around a little bit. I think there's a couple of teams that are maybe missing out of there, but that's the great part of the conversation that we can have, because we don't know. And you know what? You could take that whole top 10 and flip it on its head a week from now, because that's just baseball and the way baseball goes. And the same thing with the softball
Are you
race.
kidding me?
Right.
See what's coming
Bob,
in here?
yeah,
What?
we're eating on the air today.
That pretzel might be
Wow.
the best looking
Look
pretzel
at
I've ever
that.
seen.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?
Moly.
Where's my fish, Mo?
Wow.
Bob, you can come late anytime, because this is what happens when Bob shows
Got
up
some
late to work.
sliders over there, it looks like.
Yeah.
So that's why we're talking baseball with the
Yeah, we
sliders.
are. Yes, we are. You guys stay away from my wrap, huh?
Unreal.
Wow.
Nice
I think I'm
job.
gonna have some
What do we
water,
got here
though.
today? Let's have a good look at
Think
this.
the food's okay here at the Yard House?
I think the food's
I
pretty good.
I think so.
I think it's great.
I'm digging it. All right. All right. Let's keep
plates
moving
and
so we can
everything.
dig in, man.
You want me to go over the city baseball top
Well,
10 right
I
now?
gotta
real
We can
quick,
do that.
yeah, we're going to go over to State Baseball 10, but I want to mention real quick, you type again. There's a shut Bob up. Your boy, his boy, Tyson
Tyson
Heaton.
Heaton.
Now, you said he's the next Nolan Ryan. Well, this guy goes out last week and throws a perfect game, right? He didn't just throw a no-hitter. The guy threw a perfect game. The last guy to throw a perfect game in high school was me. All right, so now you got your boy Heaton. He had 9 Ks in the game. He's 7-0 on the season, a 1.49 ERA, and 62 innings of work, or check that, and 42 innings of work. He's got 62 strikeouts. I don't know what else to say about this dude.
Well, the day we saw him, he struck out 16. I mean, he
Yeah,
can
he
really
did.
bring it. What you love, he's got 3 pitches
rim.
and he has great control. You know, keep in mind, he had 16 strikeouts the day we saw him in 21 outs. These are 7-inning games. I mean, he's piling up statistics that are off the chart in shortened games. He's just blowing the ball by
You know,
everyone.
this is amazing. I'm sitting next to the last guy to throw a perfect game in high school right here, and the Olympic shot put champion
Well,
over
let's not
here.
go
and,
overboard. That's an exaggeration.
little old me sitting here, and I get these 2 greats that I get to sit next to. You know?
But I tell
Let's
you, Bob,
clarify. 51.7.5 is how far I went with the shot.
Bob, all I gotta say
51.7.5.
is the older you get, the better you work. All right.
Amen to that.
How good- The water's good here,
The
too.
slider's great.
Oh, you're in the slider already?
He's already
Wow,
into the
he's
slider.
into
Hey.
the lunch.
It's
Randy, you go ahead and go into the city
Why you-
step while I finish eating.
All right, I'm gonna talk about the.
Zoom in on him,
Yeah,
will
I'm
you?
gonna move the
talking
pretzel
city.
here.
I'm
It
in
might
one
be
of
in the
these.
shot there. But what a pretzel! All right, let's talk about baseball. Birmingham has been the #1 team throughout my poll throughout the year. They dropped 2 games last week to Cleveland. They couldn't get Adrian Gonzalez out. Not a lot of people have over the years. It's a different Adrian Gonzalez. Anyway, I have San Pedro now as my #1 team in the city. They are playing very well. They've won 9 in a row. I've moved Palisades up to #2. They've won 11 in a row. Their pitching staff is awesome. #3 is San Fernando, who lost to Palisades over the weekend, but I have San Fernando playing better ball. They've knocked off Sylmar a couple times in the last few weeks. So I have San Fernando #3. Banning, who's won 5 straight in the Marine League. I have them as my number 4 squad. Cleveland, even though they were down to number 9 last week, I move them back up to number 5 this week, principally off of beating Birmingham twice. That's just a great performance. And again, Adrian Gonzalez has gone crazy. Agon playing well. Thank you for the napkin. Got my eyes on the pretzel. I know Birmingham has gone down with those 2 losses, so I'll just move them only as far as number 6. Every year, Maury's team gets better at the end of the year, so even though they're dropping a little bit now, I got to stay with them. I have 7 at Taft. Taft is in the West Valley. We've kind of overlooked them early in the year, but Taft High School has the guy with the best name in sports for baseball, maybe in America, Elvis Park. Elvis has left the building. Elvis is leaving the park. He's hit 3 homers for Taft.
I got a better name for
Better
you.
than Elvis
Go
Park?
ahead. Better than Elvis Park.
Better than Elvis Park?
I got a better one.
Number 8, Carson, who has a win
that,
over
Bob?
Cleveland earlier this year.
Modern day
great.
Sky Solinsky. How you like that one?
That's a good one.
Sky Solinsky.
We gotta
rolls
take a-
off the tongue. Love
We
that
got to
one.
take a vote on that. I think Elvis
Couple
Park's
home runs
pretty
in the
good.
tournament over the weekend too.
Chatsworth had a big victory over Poly. That's why I move them ahead of the Parrots. I have the Chancellors, the West Valley Power, number 9. You can see so many teams from the West Valley. Chatsworth, number 9, and Poly, the Parrots, who did drop that 8-5 game to the Chancellors. I have them at number 10. That's my top 10, but you can see I've shifted that a lot since just last week, with Birmingham losing a couple games and San Fernando starting to play well in the Valley Mission. There's another team or 2 in the Valley I like that are getting close. Kennedy, which is another team in the Valley Mission, and Granada Hills, another West Valley League school. Those are the best teams right now, but by next week, who knows, we could change.
I got to take issue with you, Randy. I got to move the slider up to number 2 on your top 10. I got to move the garlic fries up to number 1.
Garlic fries are
Sorry,
good,
that's
man.
just you got to adjust the rankings.
I'm going with the pretzel number 1.
By the way, we're at the
pretzel's
yard.
got to be number 1.
Yard House in Brea. We have a feast fit for a king right now, and it's all good, man. I'm telling you.
All right, I'm going to talk a little bit quickly about the National Classic.
please.
I'm
Take
going to
your
run out
time,
here.
Randy, take your time,
Well, you
brother.
guys are eating. I'm talking.
I know that.
National Classic, 30th edition. Great teams from around the country. A lot of good local teams. I mentioned Redondo Union earlier. It's going to be on the NFHS network all over the place. We have representatives from the NFHS network here, Stephen Morales and a lot of other people. So a lot of people heavily involved that's getting great exposure to that tournament. But they have some great teams. It's hosted really by El Dorado High School, so they're the principal team. But they have it at a number of different sites. The championship games later in the week, semis and final will be at Cal State Northridge. Now it's at different parks during the week. Amaridge Park is hosting tonight. But what I like is a lot of teams from around the country. IMG Academy's there. It's just a great thing. And some of the people that have played it in the past, Rodriguez has played.
Well, it's a who's who, yeah.
Agon's been there. I mean, so when you have Rodriguez playing, Alex Rodriguez, who used to play in this tournament, we've had Nelson Arenado from Colorado. Arenado, he played in this tournament. We've had Trevor Plouffe when Crespi won the tournament. So many great guys and teams have played in the National Classic. So that's the baseball rundown. And even in the city section, Birmingham has to try to bounce back. They're in this tournament, so we'll see if they can bounce back against Southern section and out-of-state teams this week.
All I got to say is IMG Academy must have a great frequent flyer mile program because here you go. These guys have been here already since last week playing in the Boras Classic. Now they're playing in your Classic. And their basketball team's going to play this weekend somewhere, I don't know. It's not going to be in Florida where they're located, but it's a national game. So, I mean, these guys are all over the place constantly, man. But again, when you live on campus and you are a college program, you travel when you play.
That's what happens.
That's the way it is. I mean, USC's got to fly up to Washington. Well, IMG is basically a college high school.
I think I said Nelson Arenado. It's obviously Nolan
Nolan
Arenado.
Arenado.
But again,
nobody cares. I said it was spring. It was fall last week. It's spring, man.
Well, he just signed that big contract. I don't even call him by the right name.
Don't
Maybe
even
I'm
matter.
jealous with all the money he's making.
Who,
But
Trout?
No,
I'm
Trout.
messing with you.
I know. Trout made a lot of money too, so did
yeah, he
Arenado.
did.
I don't think any
Yeah,
of
he
them are
did.
hurting though right now.
You don't think, Randy?
No, I got a softball top 10 if you want to see it.
We do want to see
Absolutely.
that.
Okay, you guys
Put
go back
that
to
up there.
food.
All
Okay,
right, you.
LA City
More
section.
fries.
Not as many changes in softball. We'll start with Chatsworth. Amanda Clack has been really hitting for the Chancellors. I've been talking a lot about Ava Justman throughout the year. She's been brilliant in the circles. She's 11-2, and the team is 14-3 overall. But Clack's hitting well over 400, and she's had 8 multiple hit games already this year for Chatsworth. San Pedro, the best team over the years with 17 city titles, number 2. Brianna Telemontis, first baseman. He can move around the infield, hitting .562 with 10 RBIs.
Randy, can you pass that pretzel,
Yeah.
man?
Oh, do I have to? I
No,
love
that's
this
all right.
pretzel.
Never mind. I don't want to interrupt. We can get it in a minute. I'm sorry. I
This
forgot where
pretzel is not number 2, but San Pedro I have
I
number 2.
swear I thought I was listening to the radio right now, Randy.
So think about
you
this.
go.
I have San Pedro 1 in baseball and 2 in softball. San Fernando I
Wow.
have 3 in both polls. San Fernando has won 8 straight. Kennedy, the Golden Cougars are playing well, 11-3 for Craig Becker. Carson has 11 home runs this year as a team. That's a lot of home runs in softball at this stage. The Carson can really knock it out of the park. And that's been the history of the Colts, always hitting the ball long. I guess guys love Carson because guys dig the long ball.
That's right,
Okay.
baby.
El Camino Real always solid. They're undefeated in their league, unbeaten in the West Valley League. Polytechnic, Manny Peralta's won over 300 games there, and I've had Poly in the top 7 all season long. Number 8 is Marshall, which has 7 hitters hitting over 300 this year, so the Barristers are having a great year.
Wow.
I've moved Roosevelt into my top 10 at number 9. They're unbeaten so far early in the Eastern League, but Roosevelt has a good program, the Rough Riders. And number 10 is Hamilton. There's another team that's really hitting the ball. They're hitting it at a 374 clip. And one last note on softball in the LA City section. A shout out for Angelina DeVoe. Pitched 2 games last week,
Right?
2 perfect games
Wow.
over
2?
Narbonne.
She
2
doubled up on Eaton. She doubled up on Tyson.
Angelina threw a perfect game, 15-0 over Narbonne, backed it up. The next outing, 9-0 over Gardena.
What is she, Johnny Vandermeer?
What's her ERA?
Unreal.
Very low.
Has to be.
So I got to throw Banning just outside my top 10. They were in it earlier, but with Angelina DeVoe in the circle at some point, they're obviously, even though not in the top 10, a definite threat come playoff time.
For all you kids, look up Johnny Vandermeer.
Check him out.
That's
Only guy ever to throw back-to-back no-hitters,
you
but
go.
she did it better. Perfect game.
games, right? Even Vandermeer didn't do that.
I've done it a few times on Sega, man. What are you talking about? Actually, I've never ever played any video
I am going to
games.
throw one more tidbit of the city. I'm
it.
proud.
Do it.
Who's in the Final Four?
Let's see.
I'll say-
Virginia?
Auburn.
Virginia's the team I want to talk about.
Oh, Virginia.
Their
Okay.
point
Who I
guard.
think is going to win, by the way.
Who's going to win it? Virginia?
Virginia, yeah.
I wouldn't.
Think so, Bob?
Right now they're the
You're a
slowest.
bandwagon. You're
But
a
Kihei Clark, okay?
Oh,
The
yeah.
point guard
uh-huh.
played at Taft last
he did.
year. Wasn't recruited by the Southern California schools. He played in the Battle of the Valley. You know, the game I talked about
Yeah.
last week. He had
All
like
those guys
20
getting
points
paid
in
out
the
in the
All-Star
Valley.
game. So he goes to Virginia. He's like 5'9", 5'10", but he's orchestrating that Cavalier offense. Done a great job. He's hit some big shots in the tournament. Not recruited by the SoCal schools, but he's getting it done for Virginia. Kihei Clark, Taft High School, Woodland Hills.
Is he going to be a one and done or what?
No. He's small. He's a college player. Probably won't play in the NBA. But it's the same school that produced Jordan Farmer and a lot of other players.
Same thing about
Larry
Isaiah
Drew.
Thomas.
Yeah,
Look what Isaiah Thomas
yeah.
was able
Look
to
at
do.
Johnny
You know,
Egan.
Kihei's got this
Muggsy
baby.
Bogues.
He's got this baby face. You know, you look at him, you think he's playing in the 7th grade, but he's great. He just gets the job done. And who knows? Maybe you guys will be right. Maybe he will make it to the next level. But right now, he's entertaining, trying to win a national championship.
I like it.
Congratulations, man. It's always good to hear somebody local, especially when somebody gets overlooked, Bob. So many guys
Right.
do.
You love that because there's always those guys that slip through the cracks.
Baker Mayfield.
They end up somewhere, and next thing you know, they're winning Heisman trophies, national championships,
And a Super Bowl next
they're
year with Cleveland.
And they're cashing big paychecks in the professional league.
I got to be
Love
honest,
it.
when I saw him play last year, he was great at Taft. I mean, he was, all league, all city player. But I didn't know if he was good enough for Virginia. I knew he was going there. I'm thinking, well, he's a really good player. Is he going to make it there? And for him to be this impactful in his freshman year
Amazing.
and run their
It's
offense
just
really
amazing.
is amazing.
Yeah,
it's an
it
amazing
just is.
story. Yeah.
Not many true freshmen, except the one and done. Zion. You got those few guys,
Right.
but it's interesting. A guy like that didn't get recruited. Might win a national championship.
Awesome story.
That's fun. That's fun.
That is great. All right. Softball time, Southern section. Let's take a look at the top 10. See what it is. Randy, you can eat now. It's me and Bob on this one.
I'm just going to stare at the
ahead.
pretzel.
Just
Get
get the
into that
pretzel.
pretzel.
Tear it
Come on.
up, man. Come on.
Get into that
I'm
Until
going
you
to take
tear-
it with me when I go over to the baseball.
Somebody
game.
chop it up. All right, real quick. We got Norco 18-0 on the season, 12 shutouts.
Right.
They are still in the number 1 position, Bob. Norco looks indestructible.
and we'll
12 shutouts, dude. Really?
And will remain there until playoff time. And then we don't know. Like I said, we do not know when it comes to baseball and
I
softball.
know.
Upsets
I know.
up the wazoo last year. So you think Norco's going to win a title? Just hit the brakes just a little bit here. We don't know quite yet. but
Stop
they
lying,
look
Bob.
really
we
good.
know.
They're going to
They
win it.
look-
Come on,
they
guys.
look
I don't even
really
have to get into the pretzel to know
Really
that Norco's
strong.
going to win.
All right. Great Oak, second, 10-1-1 on the season. They swept Temecula Valley three straight games last week. You wacky wabbit.
Right.
All right, Santiago in the third position. They're Corona 9-3-1. They lost to Roosevelt 8-7, but they beat Centennial 4-3. Both one-run games. They remain in the third position simply because they beat everybody below them. Los Alamitos, number 4.
We saw
they're
them
11-3.
a few weeks ago, right?
Yep, they lost to Huntington Beach 7-0, but then they beat Marina 9-1.
There you go.
And then they beat Huntington Beach. They lost to Huntington Beach 7-0. Then they beat Huntington Beach the other day 9-1, and then in between that they beat Marina.
See, you don't know. You lose today, you win tomorrow. The way it goes in baseball.
Huntington Beach did drop
This
out
fly-
of the top
this fly
10.
wants to get
I'm
on
gonna
TV,
punch
I
that.
guess.
He
Come
wants
on.
to be on the tube, brother.
Right.
Santa Margarita in the Orange Lutheran in the 5th position. 12-1 on the season. They beat Ayala and Santa Fe in the La Mirada tourney last week. Santa Fe was the defending CIF champion.
Yep.
I don't know what division it was, but they moved them up. Incredibly. You keep swatting those flies, Bob.
Right.
Santa Margarita in the 6th position. They're 18-1. They beat Canby, Oregon. And they beat Orange Lutheran.
Now that's big. Now that's a big win over Olu.
And that's their first loss of the season.
I don't know about Canby, Oregon, but I know Olu's a great program.
All right, let's continue on. Chino Hill 17-3. They've won 6 of their last 7, so they're rolling. Lakewood High of Lakewood. All right, they're 14-1 in control of the Moore League. They're pretty good. We'll see what happens. It's a huge school, and they're a Division II school, but they do make our overall top 10. Upland, number 9, 14-5-3. They have won 5 of their last 6, Bob. And then we have Ayala in the 10th position. Lost 2 games this week. They were 16-1. They were
Right.
smoking. Not anymore. They lost to Olu and La Mirada in the same week. So that's your top 10. I really don't see many changes. I just think Norco's too strong for everybody.
No, they've played great softball, rich tradition, and they're living up to the expectation. They're really, really
They're
good.
certainly not sandbagging.
Yeah, they're good.
That program's been good for a long time.
All right. So that's your softball. That's your baseball right now. A lot of good things going on. Tournament. Now, real quick with the Boras. So where's it at? It ended, you told me. So what's going on? I've
So
never been
it
to
was
one.
it was all last week. J. Sarah High School and Monterey High School both host that tournament, and what a great week it was. J. Sarah, a year ago it was J. Sarah La Mirada in the final. It happened again this year. J. Sarah and La Mirada in the final. I think there's a little bit of advantage. I saw some talk on the Twitters the last couple of days that J. Sarah gets a little advantage being at home. Well, it's probably true, but hey, why not, right? Modern Day certainly had their advantage of being at home, and they didn't take advantage of it. They lost their opener and then had to go through the losers bracket. So, overall, if you were out there, it's just tons of great talent everywhere. College scouts, pro scouts, just flooding the place to look at all this great talent. And what we find out is that Southern California is the hotbed of baseball once again. Excuse me, we already know that. Proven out again in the Boras, but I tell you, J. Sarah really likes that Boras Classic, and I talked to their head coach Brett Kay actually earlier today. He's happy with what his team accomplished, but he knows full well that hey, the second half of league play now, especially in the Trinity, is upon him. And as we mentioned, Orange Lutheran 6-0 to start the Trinity League, 4-2 for J. Sarah. Kay thinks like they may have left a couple of games on the table. He thinks his team could have been 6-0 coming out of that first half of league as well. So I think it's a coin flip. We thought Servite, was going to be that team that kind of ran away with it. Modern Day looked good early. Those teams have kind of come back a little bit. You got Bosco always kind of lurking in that league. So it's basically, we say the old cliche, right? One game at a time. Literally, you have to do that in baseball in the Trinity League because you just don't know until the final day of the season who those teams are going to be that get those playoff spots.
I saw a couple games earlier this morning, actually, at this national tournament. And what I'm surprised is how good the quality of baseball is throughout America. They're bringing in teams from outside the country, but the SoCal schools are certainly holding their own. And I speak to the people out there who want to go to see a Dodger game. And I know the Dodgers are a hot ticket. They got off to a great start, scoring 1 million runs against Arizona. But the quality of high school baseball, if you go to these tournaments, you go to a Boras Classic, you go to a National Classic, you're seeing terrific baseball, well played, well performed in the field. They make plays. From a spectator perspective, to me, there's not much of a drop-off. You can watch a Dodger game, but if you see these games, it kind of looks the same.
Well, what I love is at the D1 level, public schools all over the place, right? You got your La Miradas and your Cypress and your Huntington Beach and on, right? It's not just the private schools like we see in football and basketball. That's a bigger discussion, and we can have that discussion all day long probably about the privates versus the publics. But when it comes to baseball and softball, the public schools are definitely right on par with the private schools, and I think that makes it a lot more fun to watch because they're getting the talent just as much as the private schools are getting the talent.
Baseball players are more clannish than other players.
You're right.
They're in the neighborhood. They play Little League together, a lot of them, and then they go into high school and they end up staying together. They want to play with their friends, where a lot of kids probably are not shopping schools as much as they do in football and basketball because we know they all shop. Right. They rent players nowadays, so pretty much.
Coaches go on record saying it.
But I'm just talking strictly from a viewer's perspective.
Yeah.
When I went to high school, and that was a number of years ago, you go out to a ball game and it was like Little League. They were throwing it all over the lot. Now it kind of looks like a college or Major League Baseball game when you're seeing these guys play, especially the way they field. I mean, it's just a different environment. You go out to an El Dorado and look at their facility. Oh my goodness, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, El Dorado's got one of the better fields around.
I mean, it's just a different world out there. These kids are really good in Southern
What I like
California.
too about these tournaments right now at this time of year is that there's a lot of young talent coming up that may not have already played on varsity, right? You got to call up some of these JV guys. Sky Solinsky. I said, there's another name for you, right? A kid who got called up to the varsity level, a couple of home runs. Now he say, I'm here to stay, right? I should be on the varsity level the rest of this season. Modern day, a lot of talent there, but there's another young person ready to just burst onto the scene. In Southern
I think what we
California.
should do is have a write-in. Whose name do they enjoy the most, Sky Skalinsky or Elvis Park? Which is the best
We'll
name?
put it on Twitter. We'll put it on there. on the
Elvis
SoCal
Park
Prep
of
Report
Taft
Twitter.
High School, the
We'll find
same
out.
school of Kihei Clark.
Interesting.
Who's got the best name?
Who's got the best name? I'm going to go with Elvis Park. I just love the name.
All right, we'll see what happens, man. Somebody take them up on it. All right, throw some other names in there. I can think of a few, but you
there's a
aren't
few
going to
others.
like them.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
telling you
sure
right
there
now,
is.
that's where I come
I'll
from.
come up with a few others.
All right, yesterday, LeVar Ball, your boy, and balls are all tied into high school still. We still got to talk about him, all right?
Stay in your lane, right?
So apparently, he says LaMelo is going to play, the youngest one. He's still in high school, plays at a prep school. Is going to play in China or Australia. He's not going to let him go to the G League or anywhere else. He says they're going to take it out on him and this, that, and the other. So he's going to go overseas to play. I'm speculating that because he didn't get picked up by the G League. G League had a draft, which is the Gatorade League, which is basically the minor leagues now of NBA. It used to be the college NCAA. It's no longer that. It's more like the G League now. He didn't get picked up. You can't get picked up by the G League. You cannot get in the NBA, my friend. So I think because LaMelo's going over, LeAngelo's going over, LaMelo's going to follow. That's my opinion.
Well, we could do a whole show on how these poor ball kids have been maybe misled a little bit in their careers. Certainly, we know the oldest kid finally, I think, was able to escape it just a little bit, getting picked by the Lakers and getting a chance maybe to get away from it and have his pro career right now, even though he's been hurt, for his couple of seasons. But I just think, man,
everything it just crashed and
the
burned.
other two have
fellas.
just been rough.
Well, I think it's
Been rough
unfair to
going.
the younger brothers
Yes.
of Lonzo. I mean, Lonzo's an NBA player, obviously, and again, you talked about his health issues. We don't know where he's going to end up. He may not even be a Laker next year, but hopefully he'll get healthy and play and be productive in the NBA. But the two younger brothers, they're very good, great high school players, but they're not NBA players. They have a lot of things to work on in their game.
Oh, the word
find
was
out.
the youngest one. Well, LeAngelo's the
He
youngest
could
one,
shoot,
right?
but there was other aspects of the game he still had to
Can
learn.
he play the rest of it, right?
Right.
And he has grown. I mean, he has
Right.
grown into his body has grown.
Sure.
And he seems to be, but you're right.
All right, Bob.
clearly LaMelo plays.
You can see over the other guys are frantically
Lonzo's
waving.
the guy.
We're out of time, but you continue
Whoa,
to.
already?
That was
if you
a
wanna
quick
finish
30 minutes,
eating,
wasn't
that's
it?
what we do.
No,
I haven't
that's
even gotten
quick.
to the pretzel yet.
Now we
I
eat.
know.
Now
We're
we
going to
eat.
stab
Now we
that
eat
thing.
fish.
Hey, I'd like to thank our friends here at the Yard House in Brea. Great food that we're going to devour all this good stuff right now, man.
not waiting.
I've already devoured a little bit of it when Randy was talking, but it is what it is.
I'm not waiting.
I'd like to thank the KM3 Project for also sponsoring this program. Remember, they are organizations that supports people who have cancer. They will help pay your bills, stuff like that. You want to support a group that's not going to research to pay the already wealthy guys. Support these guys because they help real people deal with their issues
They do indeed.
while they're suffering through their insidious diseases, whatever it may be. All right, on behalf of Randy Rosenblum, Bob Gibson, Richard Stray, saying so long from your friends here at the SoCal Prep Report.
I'm getting that pretzel.
Take it out. Take it out. All right.